So last night's Outlander was quite dark, and there's really a lot to talk about, and it's a very heavy episode, so I'm going to do my best to try to explain everything, and I'm going to be careful how I say things and the opinions I give, because it is not my place to give my opinion here, just some thoughts on the episode. So, this was a really, honestly, depressing episode. I wasn't expecting it to be very depressing, but it turned out it was a lot of conflict. So what happens is Jamie and Claire finally get to River Run, and we all meet Auntie Jocasta. And she seems very warm and welcoming to her nephew and her what do you call them? to her niece-in-law, I guess. And so we get an idea of her character, and she's very understandable because Jamie and Claire explained to her what happened during the journey there, which, as you guys recall from episode 1, they were robbed by good old Mr. Bonnet. Interestingly, we don't get an idea of how Claire feels about her ring in this episode, which I thought we were going to see a little hint at that at the beginning, but they were more concerned about the gemstones that were stolen, and they're concerned about being broke. Auntie Jocasta is very understanding, and she's like, you guys can stay here as long as you want, and she doesn't find them a bother at all, which this is the first Mackenzie on that side of the family that's actually been very welcoming to them. Because as you recall, Dougal and Colin were kind of hard to figure out, but Auntie Jocasta is very nice, at least. That's how she comes across. But anyway, we also get to meet some of the characters that are going to be important later. At least they were in the books. I'm not sure how much they're going to be acknowledged in the series, but we meet, what was his name? John... I'm looking at it. John Quincy Myers. So he helps out young Ian because Rollo unfortunately ran into a skunk, which that's probably the best scene in this whole episode. It was just really funny. So he meets him, and they actually have a discussion about the land, and mainly the Indians is what they're talking about. And this kind of gives young Ian the idea, oh, Indians and Highlanders aren't too different. And, it's nice when you can find people you can connect to. And Ian actually brings this up later at a dinner party where he's trying to talk to some of the men that are at the party who, obviously, they're pro-slavery and they don't care much for the Indians, and they call him naive for thinking that the land is their land, so it's kind of this episode. Hard to talk about. So, let me get back to the story. So, a big problem in this episode is that Claire sees all of the slaves that Auntie Jocasta has, and it's a big problem for her because, as you guys remember from season 3, she really has strong opinions about slavery, especially because she was friends with Joe back in the 60s, or 40s through the 60s, I should say. And she's not crazy about the idea of people serving her in general. So when she brings up these thoughts and opinions to Auntie Jocasta didn't exactly respond the way I thought she was going to. It kind of made me nervous. I'm like, Claire, those are fighting words. But she's actually, questioning, where she got her beliefs from, but kind of in a pleasant-ish way. Not quite like she wants a fight with her, but she was kind of treading the water carefully, let's say. But obviously, Auntie Jocasta is not going to change her mind about it because her views are her views, Claire's views are her views, that's just kind of how they leave it. But, oh, I was also going to bring up other characters that we meet, sorry. So actually in this scene, we also see, we get an idea of Phaedra's character. She's one of the slaves who is helping out Claire with her dress. And she's allowed to have a little more free speech than you would expect. So Auntie Jocasta kind of grants people that in a way. But she's also nervous when Claire brings up the whole she's not crazy about people owning people thing. She's like, oh, what do I do in this moment? Kind of thing. So you can kind of tell, like, she is loyal to Jocasta, but at the same time, she might have an idea, like, I would kind of like somebody to stand up for us, but at the same time, that's not the life I'm used to. But we don't get too much of her character except for this scene, so it was nice to kind of get an idea of her character. Supposedly she's going to be seen more in the series, maybe. At least in the books, I remember reading that she helps out Brianna, so that'll be interesting to see. Because Brianna's supposedly going to be at River Run at some point, but like I said, if the series changes things, I'm not sure which direction they're going to go in. Anyway, so yeah, we meet her, and we also meet Ulysses. I'm sorry, I can never say that name right. Ulysses, I don't know. It's me, I'm sorry, I just am not good at pronouncing that name in general, but so he's basically Jocasta's main servant and helper. He helps guide her because she's kind of blind, she says. She can only make out shapes, so she needs somebody to guide her. And he's kind of like second in charge, I would say. He watches over the property as much as he can, and he's also kind of keeping an eye on Jamie and Claire. And I think he's also going to be a part of the Brianna storyline, at least in the books is what I read. We'll find out. So, back to the main story. Jamie and Claire learn that Jocasta is going to leave River Run to Jamie, which means he and Claire are going to own her slaves, which is an idea that really bothers Claire, which understandably so. And she wants to see if there's a way that they can free them. So Jamie tries to discuss this idea with Jocasta and Mr. Campbell, who's kind of like, I can't think what his profession is. Either he's like another landowner nearby, and he's definitely a friend of Jocasta, so he tries to help out. But he's also well versed in the laws of North Carolina at the time, so he knows that to free slaves, to give them salary, it's not going to be an easy task. Apparently they have to, each one has to prove that they've done like an act of heroism, like saved a life, and they have to, at least Jamie has to pay a certain amount of money for each slave, and it's like, who came up with these rules? I can't believe they actually took time and made laws around all these things. Anyway, so it's going to be a more difficult task than they had thought. And so while they're trying to figure this out, a problem arises, and this problem pretty much finishes the episode. So Claire is called out to help one of the overseers of the slaves because apparently his ear got cut off. We don't know entirely how it happened. So she and Jamie make their way over there, and then the main thing that they see going on at that moment is this slave is being like hung by a hook in his abdomen, which is worse, honestly, than, well, I mean, neither one is good, but so basically they're hanging him because he is the one who cut the guy's ear off because the guy was attacking him. He was just defending himself. Unfortunately, the rules are that you can be in trouble for shedding the blood of a white man, which Anyway, so he's taken, the overseer has taken, like, the punishment into his hands, which he's technically not supposed to do, and Jamie and Claire interfere, and she's wanting to tend to, his name's Rufus, sorry, Rufus's wounds more than the overseer's, and this really bothers everybody because the guy is supposed to be in trouble despite what the overseer was doing to him. So she basically ignores all of this, and she has everybody bring Rufus to River Run, and she's tending to him. We learn that the overseer and his men were put in jail because they took the punishment into their own hands. Like I said, they weren't supposed to do that. So there was some justice there. However, Rufus is still in trouble, and basically mending his wounds is not going to do anything because he's going to be killed anyway. And sadly, there's no way around it. Because even if Jamie and Claire try to help him escape, they're going to take it out on the rest of the slaves. And that is just... that's so messed up. I think everyone just had anger issues back then or something. It was just insane. So Claire is kind of in a pickle, if you will, and she doesn't know what to do because, like we learned also in season 3, she made an oath as a doctor to not do any harm and to save lives. And this really goes against her vow because she does not want to kill anyone. Remember last season, she didn't even want to let the guy who attacked her die. Which I know that was a controversial episode, but I'm not here to talk about that. So, anyway, this is a really dark moment because Claire is stuck with this choice. Either she lets the mob take away Rufus and kill him while he's alive, or she has to end his life in a peaceful way, and then they give up his body to the mob to satisfy both ends. But it's a really dark choice that anyone would have to make, and it's so sad because the whole idea with this episode is that you're kind of getting more of an idea of what America was during this time. And you know how Claire was talking about the American dream and how there was so much change coming? The problem is that Claire is in a time when that change isn't happening. And this change especially technically won't happen for another 100 years. And it's hard to be knowledgeable of the history and having to live with the fact that you can't do anything about it. It's like the burden of the knowledge. So Claire, unfortunately, does choose to end Rufus's life, but he knows that it's what has to be done. He knew that he was going to die. And it's sad because that's kind of what they've been forced to live with, to know that that's what's going to happen to them. Nothing's going to be fair. So Claire at least makes the death peaceful. She gives him some, like, poison in the tea, and he's able to talk about his family and what he wishes he could see again, and he dies peacefully. And it's really, it was actually a really sad scene. I wanted to cry because you really spend this moment with Claire and Rufus and you realize how much she doesn't want to be doing this and how much you wish Rufus could have lived. And it's really a dark moment. And so because they were able to give him death, he didn't have to endure the pain that the mob puts his body through. They drag him by the noose and they hang him on the tree. And it's just a horrible way to end an episode because that's literally where they leave it, Claire and Jamie and everyone watching the body being hung. And I honestly thought they were going to end it with Jamie and Claire talking and being like, okay, we can't live here anymore, let's find our own place, which we will see that in the next episode. But I thought that would have been a little bit of a better place to end it, because I thought we were going to have a little more hope at the end. But no, they left us with a dark place. It was just, like, I watched it a few more times, so you kind of aren't as affected the next few times as you are the first time you watch it. But it's just such a sad episode, because you're kind of going through it with Claire and Jamie because you really don't want this to happen. You want to change history with them in this moment, but there's this horrible knowledge that there is no way out of it at this point. And yeah, this is really why it's a dark episode, because you feel trapped. You feel the sense of hopelessness. And honestly, like, this whole episode, it just felt like it was kind of lonely, and like, it just felt, like I said, hopeless. And it was just this feeling that I had throughout the whole episode. And I don't know if any of you guys felt that way, but it just was a darker episode than I thought it was going to be, because I just kind of thought we would have a little more of a lighter introduction to River Run, but this was a very heavy episode, and I applaud Outlander for taking this on, because this is not an easy subject to focus on, and this isn't going to be the whole of season 4, but they wanted to focus on slavery in this episode because they wanted to show Claire and Jamie that America is not this innocent place with an easy start. You really have to kind of find a way to make your life better there, especially in this time, and it just was not going to be an easy start for them. So honestly, I thought it was a really well done episode. I wouldn't say it's my favorite episode because, like I said, it was just the feeling. It was so dark, depressing, and not what I was expecting. But the way that they handled the subject, I thought they did a great job. Maybe other people have different opinions, and I understand that. But just in my opinion, I did not expect them to take this on as deeply as they did, and I honestly was affected by it. I feel bad. And I feel terrible, especially because I know now that Jamie and Claire really have no power in helping anybody. This is the burden they have to live with. So, yeah. Ugh, okay. I'm sorry I had to get that out of my system. Alright, so tell me what you guys thought of the episode. Share your opinions, I'm curious. And I'm actually really excited for episode 3. And we actually get to see Brianna and Roger again, according to the promo that they showed. So I'm really excited. I just really want to see their story play out in this season, because it's going to be a big storyline for Brianna and Roger. And Brianna, I'm not sure if she's going to time travel in the next episode, but I think they're at least going to set it up for her to time travel. So, yeah, excited. Also, we get to see Claire and Jamie finding their way to Fraser's Ridge, because the events of this episode are probably the catalyst for that. I understand. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I think it's going to be a great season. I definitely feel like the first 2 seasons cover the changes of being in a new country, the darkness that you have to deal with making a new start, and I think that was a great setup for what's to come. because now that we have that established, I think they're going to focus more on how Jamie and Claire are going to make a new life for themselves, and we're going to focus on Brianna and Jamie meeting, which it's one of my most anticipated scenes, honestly. So yeah, alright guys, I'm going to end it here. Please let me know what you thought of this episode, this review, and I will see you for episode 3. Alright, bye guys.